Hello and welcome to this James the Bike Guy, where today we're getting a chance to take a look at the Trek Top Fuel 8. This is the aluminum version of Trek's Goldilocks bike, falling somewhere between an XC race bike and a new age all-mountain bike. So in this video, we're going to go into the features and designs of this Trek Top Fuel 8 and let you know what I think about this aluminum trail bike. All right, so without further ado, let's check out this Trek Top Fuel. Now, the Top Fuel has been out for quite some time with a bunch of different generations, but this one in front of us came out in 2021 as a 22 model that gave the capability of a all-mountain bike in a lightweight and fun, snappy package that you used to think of in an XC bike. And back then, if we roll back the clock a couple of years, the word that was going around that luckily never quite stuck was downcountry. And basically the idea was you took a XC bike, which the Trek Top Fuel has long since been an XC race bike, but Trek has moved on to their Super Caliber, which is a short travel XC weapon, and instead brought the Top Fuel into this Goldilocks position. And by Goldilocks, what I mean is this bike is going to utilize 130 millimeters of front travel and 120 millimeters of rear travel, while also running super slack angles so that you could take this bike and really be able to cruise down a descent, but they're still utilizing their highly efficient ABP rear suspension tuned for pedaling performance on this bike, so that they're able to create a snappy handling bike that accelerates and feels really nice while also being able to descend well. And new for 2023 on this platform is going to be right here in the front end. So this is the RockShox Pike. Now, as you may know, the earlier versions of the Top Fuel used to run up front the SID with the 35 mil stanchions, but I love to see that for 2023, they've really beefed it up with this RockShox Pike, and compared to when this bike first came out, it came with a 120 mil version fork, whereas now this is coming spec'd with the max fork capacity for the bike. That's right, a 130 millimeter travel setup. So that means they've been able to add some extra suspension up front straight out of the box, and then they control the rear suspension of this bike with a RockShox Deluxe Ultimate RCT. And that means we've got tons of adjustments on here. So you're able to go in a climb, trail, descend variant. You're also able to adjust the gait of the rear shock and rebound. So lots of different tuning options. But Trek has put in this pretty sweet suspension in with their Top Fuel bike, which, being that XC style bike that's turned trail, comes in a couple different flavors. So this being the 8, which means that this is their Platinum Alpha aluminum. And so it's an all alloy frame, shaped and butted tubing. And Trek, when they first came out with this bike, was one of the first to add down tube storage into an aluminum bike. We had seen that from several manufacturers on carbon bikes. And now, fast forward a couple of years, you get that on a lot of brands. So it's no longer totally unique, but a cool first feature from them. And outside of the Alpha Platinum aluminum version, they also make a OCLV mountain carbon version, the 9-point number. Now, that number that I'm talking about, that is, of course, the part spec that's on this bike. And this being a Top Fuel 8 means it's utilizing Shimano's XT rear derailleur, a 12-speed system through this SLX rear cassette, SLX crankset, and then up top, it is being shifted via XT shifter, which is nice to see because the XT shifter is a huge upgrade over the SLX, but then relying on SLX for a little more cost-effective way of braking with 4-piston calipers on the front and the rear. And that makes for a pretty sweet part spec on this aluminum build. I love seeing that Pike with the 130 up front, the 120 out of that RockShox Deluxe out back, and then a couple of features I really like on this bike. First would be the knock block system up front. So this is the current knock block 2.0, which means it's offering 72 degrees of steering angle. So almost a full sweep of the handlebar. You're never really going to be turning tighter than this. And that's a pretty substantial upgrade over the knock block 1.0, which used to be a bit more limited. But the reason they're doing a steering limiter on this bike is kind of twofold. So the first It gives a bit more clearance for that down tube. Now on the top fuel, you can omit the knock block and just run the bar normally because they've curved the top of the down tube. This used to be straight on earlier models. But the other thing that I really like about when they add a knock block in is for the safety of all of the cabling and whatnot that's on the bike. Basically, by not allowing that bar to fully spin around, it's not going to knock you, and it's also not going to pull on the cables. So it's a cool little feature, and I like that Trek allows you to either run it, or you can get a block-off plate to omit it, should you not want that feature. Otherwise, of course, there is a dropper post and back. Most bikes nowadays have that, and this TransX dropper is specified based on the size of the bike. And for the geometry and suspension of this bike, it does rock a Minolink. So you've got this Minolink back here, which gives you two positions, a high and a low, for the suspension linkage. And what that basically does for the bike's geometry means that it'll adjust the head tube angle and the seat tube angle by about half a degree. So in an 18.5-inch frame size like this one is, it has a 65.9 degree head tube angle in high, 65.5 in low, a seat tube angle of 75.9 effective or 75.5 in low, and then a chainstay length of 435 millimeters, while the reach in this medium large comes in at 464 millimeters, which is downright modern and progressive in this type of bike. It's really bringing that kind of rowdy feeling to an XC performance bike. Last thing to go over is going to be the wheel set, the Line Comp 30. This is a 30 millimeter internal wheel. It utilizes the XR4 team issue tires and is coming factory tubeless ready setup, as well as this Rapid Drive 108 rear hub. Basically, the Rapid Drive 108 rear hub means that the rear hub is going to have 108 teeth of engagement, which if you take a listen, whoa, does that sound nice? And like a pretty sweet wheel set to come factory on the bike. Well, anyways, it's now time to find out what it weighs. And after that, go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think of this bike? What would you change? And, well, is this the kind of bike that you dream of riding? And the actual weight of the Trek Top Fuel 8 comes in and weighs 32.8 pounds.